Hello and welcome to this broadcast of Running on Love with God. My name is Lori Michelle, and I was awakened in April of 2009 to the voice of our Creator, God Himself. And He said, go get pen and paper and start writing this down. And I listened. And here I am now, all these years later, speaking out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all social media platforms to share His voice and His wisdom when our world needs His guidance. I'm here in Israel, and my friend Anna Marie is in Chicago helping me by being my co-host. And my Grand Inquisitor, as we have nicknamed her, because Anna Marie, you come up with the best questions that I know most people would ask if they had an opportunity to. Tonight's program is very provocative and a subject matter that most people try to avoid like the plague, and it's abortion. And the name of the program is When Does Life Begin? Conception or Birth? And I also pose the question, everything God does is perfect. Is it ever okay to have an abortion? So before I turn over the floor to you, Anna Marie, to ask me very pointed questions about this topic that's very emotional and very volatile, I'm going to answer that question, is it ever okay in the eyes of God Himself to have an abortion? And His answer is yes. That might surprise many people, but we have to go deeper into when is it okay, when is it a sin, is it ever a sin? And so I will leave that up to you, Anna Marie, for you to ask me questions, and I will answer as best I can. I had this conversation, just so you know, just about a week ago, and his answers surprised me. They really did.
Well, I really want to hear more about what your conversation was, but maybe you could start by answering your initial question, which is, when does life begin, conception or birth? And then I'm going to add on a question, why does it matter?
Well, sometimes I ask that question to Hashem and I'll say, does this matter? Does that matter? Does it matter who I was in a past life? Doesn't it just matter who I am now? And his answer is always the same. Everything matters. Every breath you take, every decision you make, every single thing matters, and nothing in this world comes into being by happenstance or accident. So everything matters. And when does life begin? You are a human being with a life of your own when you take your first breath. A lot of people believe that when the egg meets the sperm at the point of conception is when life begins. And while that is a life, it is a human being in the making. So in the Torah, which for you call the Old Testament, life begins when you take your first breath, when the head emerges out of the woman's body and takes his or her first breath.
So explain a little bit more about when you said that abortion is okay.
I didn't say abortion is okay. I said, is it ever okay to have an abortion? So, that if you take things apart in sound bites, which I'm not accusing you of at all, but that's the danger when people take a sentence or two and reformat it and repeat it, but repeat it in a way that's no longer true. So abortion is okay in certain instances, and I spoke to him about this, in cases of illegal sexual relations against Torah, against God, where a conception occurs, incest, rape. He says abortion is not a sin in those instances. It is also not a sin when it is to save the mother's life. The mother's life takes precedence always until the point where the baby's head emerges and the baby is breathing on his or her own. Then the lives are equal. But prior to birth, her life and her safety comes first.
What about late-term abortion? Is that a different answer?
Well, it depends on, so let's talk about abortion being a sin. Because while I said there are occasions where he does not consider abortion a sin, the other occasions of abortion can, and most of them are, sinful. They're a sin. You're not supposed to end a pregnancy. So in other words, if you're married and you just don't feel like having another child, it's not convenient, it's a sin. It's not a method of contraception, in other words. He considers it an egregious sin. Having said that, Anna Marie, the shocking information that he said was that amniocentesis and ultrasound, he says, can be a sin in his eyes. And I had all of those tests, and women have all those tests all the time.
So why would you said they can be considered? In what situations would those be considered sins?
There are times when medical tests are necessary to save the mother, to save the child, when they're required. But if you're using those tests to find out the gender, for example, of the baby, and then maybe you don't want that gender, so you decide to abort, that's a sin. So it's one of those decisions that you make to have one of those tests. You have to decide, why are you having that test? If you're gender selecting, or if you're looking to find out if the child is imperfect in some way, and you're going to abort if that child isn't perfect, that's a sin against God, according to Hashem.
So if you find out that the baby you're carrying has terrible birth defects and is going to suffer in this world, you're still required, or it would be a sin to end that life?
Not always. There are times when you find out that the fetus is so sick that being born would only lead to a week or two of suffering and the fetus would definitely die. He just said, no, that would not be a sin. So here's the biggest information that the world doesn't realize right now. There's a lot of argument about Roe v. Wade and a woman's right to choose, right?
Right.
So the question that you probably won't bother to ask, that most people would never bother to ask is Hashem God pro-choice or pro-life?
Yeah, I would assume he's pro-life.
The answer to the question, is Hashem God pro-choice or pro-life, is he is both. That may be life-shattering, shocking. It might anger some people and make some people jump for joy. But it's complicated. You see, I've said this to you before. If everybody has it 100% right, and no one clearly knows the 100% of the truth, everybody has a little portion of their story just a little wrong. So if everybody has one little portion of their quest to be right, and they're wrong, then everybody's wrong. No, in other words, we need the whole truth. We can't just do things in snippets, and we can't be so demanding and narcissistic to say, my group, my book, my God has it right, and everybody else is wrong. Because Hashem tells me consistently, there's truth all over the world, but there's only one truth from him. And so the answer to the question, is God pro-choice or pro-life, is both. And the next question, I'm assuming, is how? How can he be both? Unless you want to rephrase it.
Well, what I was going to ask is, I assume that means that abortion needs to be safe and legal, but that women should really think hard before they get one.
Well, I think you probably are getting used to me by now, because you're spot on. You're spot on. You're learning after a year of doing this with me. You're figuring this out. He has a method and a way, and his ways are perfect and just and loving and forgiving. And he wants to give us these rules, not for him, they're for us. So pro-choice means safe and legal, and it's up to a woman. Her womb, her ability to procreate should not be litigated in the court of law. That doesn't mean that it's not a horrific and egregious sin for her to have an abortion. Instead of criminalizing her, she should be taught and spoken to, and every option should be used to prevent her from sinning. Because if Hashem punishes her, it is far worse and much more serious than if man punishes her with some sort of penalty, prison time, financial penalty. Whatever man can do to her pales in comparison to what faces her if she sins in his eyes.
Where do men fit into this topic?
That's an interesting question. I didn't ask him that. But let me ask now. He said it's her choice. He said unequivocally, she's not a slave to man. He said that is correct.
Okay, no matter what.
No matter what.
Okay, so this is universal. This is not one of those, it depends.
Well, it depends on whether it's a sin or not, but it's between, he said this repeatedly to me, her choice is between her and God. But the thing that people need to know, and I hope someone changes their position if they're atheist, or they don't realize that he truly is real. He listens to your thoughts. You have no secrets, and you are accountable. And the choice to have an abortion is very serious. Very serious. If you make the wrong choice, you will live with that choice, and you have to face him when you leave this world. And this is really the truth. People feel they're I don't know what the word is, indestructible, that it's my body, I can do anything I want. It's not true. It's a gift. Procreation is the most supreme gift in all the world. To be able to bring another human being into this world is an amazing gift. So you really have to think very carefully before you make that decision.
Okay, I have no more questions. Do you want to summarize what?
Well, this is a very serious topic, and the answers that I gave should make people pause and understand that the truth lies everywhere in the world, and we shouldn't be so judgmental against people who are choosing the wrong thing. We should learn what is the truth and not criticize or condemn people. There are a lot of people in this world who are pro-life, and no matter what, it's a sin. But until you walk a day in someone's shoes and understand what goes into that decision, it's not a lighthearted decision for most women, and live with her consequences, you shouldn't be making that decision for her. It's between her and God. And he decides. Instead of recriminations, you should be giving her compassion and teaching her how to choose better. Right now, as we speak, there are terrorists in this world who are using brides as sex slaves and forcing them to have children. Let me ask you a question. If you are anyone with a heart, with compassion, would you want to be that person who's being forcibly raped and forced to bring a child into this world that's brought about through hatred and slavery and a horrific crime?
Oh, of course not.
Of course not. So how can you make a blanket statement that abortion is always unequivocally a sin? You can't. Only God knows. There's one more aspect of pregnancy that I spoke to Hashem about, because he was very, very firm on a woman's right to choose. Not taking away from the fact that I will say right now, Anna Marie, I sinned in his eyes, I suppose, but he prevented me from a full sin. I had amnio twice when I was pregnant, and I had full expectation that if I got bad news, I was going to abort. And that would have been an egregious sin. And right now, as we speak, most children with Down syndrome are born to women under 35 because it's not required to have that test. The women who find out that they have a child with Down syndrome abort. And I will add that to that, I did an event for Running on Love, and we had a whole team of families with children with Down syndrome. And these children were some of the sweetest, most angelic human beings I've ever met. They are a blessing in our world. And the parents who have children with Down syndrome are some of the most fortunate people in our world. It is said in Torah that handicapped children, mentally retarded children brought into this world are what's known in Torah as tzaddikim, righteous souls, sacrificing their own journey to teach us all a lesson. Their magnificence. So to have amnio and abort a child with Down syndrome in Hashem's eyes is a sin. They're here for a purpose, and only he knows that purpose. Conversely, forcing a woman to give birth to a child, perhaps that came by virtue of incest, is a sin against God as well. So I hope this shed a lot of light and gave you a lot of food for thought. It's a hard subject. I'm not sure I even have a strong opinion anymore about it, other than I only want to do what's right in the eyes of God. I never want to sin in his eyes, ever. But growing up, I had different opinions. And as you grow older, God willing, you grow wiser. And at this time, in the end of days, I hope people will understand he's the real deal. And he's more amazing than any human being has ever written or known about him before. He is incredible, pure love. So with that, I will say thank you for listening, and go to my website, lauriemichelle.net. You can make a private meeting for about another few weeks, because the wonderful news is I'm almost finished my first book. And as soon as I launch that book and publish it, those private meetings are no more. So please go to lauriemichelle.net and make a meeting with me so I can help you understand his ways and help you with your decisions. God bless you, and may there be peace in our world in our time. God bless you.